Hello again, everybody, and I'm here to discuss an amendment that's very near and dear to my heart, the Second Amendment. But first, I want to discuss very briefly the First Amendment. And it's really important to do that. The First Amendment, which is probably the most important amendment in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, is the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and redress of our grievances. These are basic rights given to us by God, and they're guaranteed to us in the Constitution. Now, these are the most important freedoms that we can have. However, they mean nothing unless they can be guaranteed. And the only way that we can guarantee those freedoms and that they will never be taken away from us is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the right to keep and bear arms by a free people. Now, I've got several quotations. A lot of people recently have been making the mistake in trying to interpret what the Founding Fathers meant when they wrote that amendment. I've heard everything from your right to hunt, your right to protect yourself in your home. Um, None of these were the original intention of the Second Amendment. In fact, Thomas Jefferson even had a warning. He said, on every occasion of the Constitution's interpretation, let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. Recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, and instead of trying to force what meaning may be squeezed out of the text or invent against it, instead, let us conform to the probable one in which it was passed. Now, that's real simple because that means to read the Second Amendment the way it was written. And that is that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. That means there is no way that right from a free person can be taken away from you, no matter what. I've got a bunch of other quotes here concerning the Second Amendment by our founding fathers. Some of these are great. I love these. Um, no free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms. Period. I mean, there's no getting around that. No one will be debarred from bearing arms. That was Thomas Jefferson in the Virginia Constitution, the first draft, 1776. What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. Period. That is from Thomas Jefferson in a letter to James Madison in 1787. That's specifically talking about government tyranny against the people. The Constitution of most of our states and of the United States assert that all power is inherent in the people, that they may exercise it by themselves, that it is their right and their duty to be at all times armed. That is to prevent tyranny in the government from taking over the general population. A lot of people say, well, the Second Amendment was only meant for militia. Well, this should explain that. I ask, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people, except the few public officers, which public officers are not meant to fight. They're meant to direct the fighting. But who are the militia? The entirety of the people of the United States. Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops. I heard it today in today's discussions, a lot of people talking about, well, that was meant for muskets. Well, that's because at the time, the soldiers carried muskets. The people were to be equally armed or better to prevent a standing army from taking over. This has nothing to do with deer hunting. This has nothing to do with preventing somebody from breaking into your house. This has to do with preventing government tyranny. How important was it to the founding fathers? Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are ruined. The great object is that every man be armed. Everyone who is able might have a gun. That was Patrick Henry in a speech to the ratifying Virginia Convention in 1778, June 5th. It is really simple. The Second Amendment was not meant to protect me from my neighbor or protect me from a criminal if I'm out and about. It wasn't to protect me from being overrun by deer. It wasn't protecting my hunting rights. All of those rights are obvious rights. They're God-given rights, they're common sense, and they're obvious. These rights given by God are for self-protection from a tyrannical government. We have to remember where the patriots were coming from. They were coming from tyranny, and they wanted to make sure that tyranny would never again enter the shores of the United States from outside or from within. Thank you.